All right. So, how did everybody do on trivia? I think I started out a little bit late, maybe about a minute or so, but we're ready to go now. So, welcome and welcome to the return of Office Hours stream. Just getting back in the swing of things. We're actually going to get started on a project today, though. So, if you're there in the chat room, say hi and feel free to ask questions. But if you were here earlier, you might have saw what we're going to cover today. So, going to be a lot of Hey, Coding with Calvin, what's going on? Great to see you. Glad you're here. We're going to talk briefly about all these LLMs that are the hot new thing. ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, Google Bard. What can they do? What can they do to help us code? We're going to learn a lot about that in the stream as we go. A short introduction today. And then I want to introduce you to a project called Conduit. It's also known as the Real World project. I'm going to focus on that as my main project here. That's what my goal is to build. And I'm going to build out an example of that, implementation of that. You'll see what I mean when I get to that. We're going to use ChatGPT and Copilot and Bard to help build that and see how it goes. And then once we cover those things, we're actually going to start coding. Going to start writing some code. Do some things we need to do first before we code. We need to get organized a little bit, set up some tasks and project management structure, just as we would in the real world. Maybe get to some CI/CD/testing. See how want to set that up. Maybe GitHub Actions or something along those lines, and then work on the first feature, assuming we have time for it. So I will be wrapping up around noon today. That's about 3 hours from now. Just as an FYI, there is some work being done in my house today, so I may have to step out if the worker has a question or needs something. It's a busy day around here. My wife has also started her swim lessons, so she's otherwise occupied as well. So sorry about that in advance if I have to step out briefly. I'll put up a little be right back message and I will be back as soon as I can. So let's get going. So what about this ChatGPT stuff? Copilot Bard. So we can use those to help code. Now, some people there's discussion about, is it going to replace developers? Is it going to help developers? Is it completely worthless for developers? All those sorts of things. The truth is I've been using it for a lot of different tasks for a while now. Probably since, December or so, when it first got public. I've started using it for a lot of different things, for helping me write code, helping me look for answers, things like that. So I've been experimenting with a little bit. And what I've done here is I've got Visual Studio 2022 here. I've got ChatGPT here in a web browser window inside Visual Studio. And I've subscribed to ChatGPT Plus. So something you can do, just as a quick example here, we can ask ChatGPT to write some code for us. So how about write a FizzBuzz implementation in C#? And hit the submit on that, and there we go. So ChatGPT is going to give me some code. And it's done it all for me. So it takes a second here to write it all out. So if you're not familiar with FizzBuzz, what this is, it's like an interview question type of coding exercise. It's just kind of the goal was to root out people who have no business at all working for a coding position. That, for whatever reason they are, pretending to be a developer. This is not meant to challenge you or prove that you're a good developer or anything like that. It's just meant to be a quick exercise to weed out people and also to kind of show someone's thought process as they code, maybe see them interact with their tools. Even if they get it wrong or make a mistake, that's again not the point. It's not one of those whiteboarding exercises where you're expected to come up with a linked tree algorithm, all that kind of stuff. So, hey, it's Guy from Mars. What's going on? Matthew with 2 T's, if you please. But I'm glad you're here, Guy from Mars. So I'll just let me just look at this. So this is the whole main. So I really don't need the whole thing. Let's just copy this part here, paste it in. And what it does is it writes out numbers to the console 1 to 100. is divisible by 3, it writes out fizz. Divisible by 5, writes out buzz. Divisible by 3 and 5, writes out fizz buzz, hence the name of the exercise. What happened with Couchbase? Well, what do you mean what happened with Couchbase? I'm still working there, still doing Couchbase stuff. We'll get to that later. So there's fizz buzz, and I didn't actually myself write a single line of code. It was all ChatGPT. So that's pretty interesting to get it to write code for us. What I think is also interesting is, let's just do a new conversation here. New chat. Is we can also get to read code. What does this code do? And I can just paste it in and submit, and it'll tell me. Okay, and right there. Now this may be because I had a conversation earlier about FizzBuzz, but it is telling me that this code is the FizzBuzz code and describing what it does. And this, to me, is really a kind of underemphasized in all the hot takes feature of ChatGPT, is the ability to read code, understand what it's doing. And if you're working in a code base you're unfamiliar with, it's not written very well, not commented very well, whatever, this can help you kind of decipher that and see, well, what the heck is going on with this code. So that's a great feature of ChatGPT as well. So that's ChatGPT. There's also another tool called GitHub Copilot. Which you can use like this. I think this will work. There we go. So I just hit tab, and this is something that GitHub Copilot has written for me. So again, very similar implementation, but this will also work just fine. Output's the same thing, FizzBuzz, FizzBuzz. So that's right there in Visual Studio, and there's some cool stuff happening with GitHub Copilot that's going to make it kind of a combination of ChatGPT and Copilot. GitHub Copilot X, which I don't have yet, but I've signed up to get. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll get an invite to that program. One more thing I want to explore, and one thing I'll also notice is that the ChatGPT example was pretty verbose, and this one is a little more concise, I guess. It's basically the same code, just a slightly different way to write it. Less curly braces here, which for FizzBuzz is totally fine. For production, I think I would rather have something like this. Something a little easier to scan and read and make changes to. But for FizzBuzz, it's totally fine. Let's do one more. I'm going to bring up Google Bard here. See what it can do. Write a FizzBuzz implementation in, whoops, if I can write. Usually these things are pretty tolerant of my typos, but write a FizzBuzz implementation in C#. Oh, well, I skipped the word in. I'm a text-based AI and can't assist with that. That's interesting. Let's try this again. See if it'll actually work. Okay, interesting. So I left out one word, in, and it said I can't do that. I added in back in, and now we've got it. So here is the Google Bard implementation of FizzBuzz. It's looking similar to the ChatGPT, but seems a little bit more verbose. I mean, there's one extra else statement in there, I think, but it still works. There we go, FizzBuzz. So we've got 3 different tools. OpenAI's ChatGPT. We've got GitHub Copilot from GitHub and Microsoft, and we've got Bard from Google Bard. Now, I've spent most of my time using ChatGPT, so that's what I'm most familiar with. I've used Google Bard just a tiny bit, and I've used Copilot. Actually, I didn't even realize I had a free GitHub Copilot membership until yesterday, so I haven't used that very much either. There's also another feature built into this called, what's it called? Intella. You got that MVP? Yeah, it might be from MVP. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm a Microsoft MVP is what Calvin is talking about. There's another feature, was it IntelliCode? Is that what it's called, Calvin? Where it's like, where it kind of, this might be Copilot, it might be IntelliCode, where it gives you a version of IntelliSense kind of code hints, but they're all pulled from you know, a LLM or something like an LLM that'll just guess what code you want to write. So there's a combination of those two things. It's not really clear to me where one ends and one begins. So here's this is probably Google Copilot. It's just giving me a hello world there and saying, that's probably what you want. And there you go. So I can keep going and add more to that. And so it's just writing the whole thing for me. And so I can, now it's like, well, now you write something. So I can just keep writing console.write lines all day. But not that terribly interesting. So we're going to explore all these different tools and see if there's any strengths, weaknesses, compare and contrast as we go. But to do that, it's helpful to build more than just a FizzBuzz or a hello world. So that is where this project called Real World Example Apps comes into play. And so what this is, it is essentially a specification for front-end and back-end web applications. And they all follow the same specification. So, you know, you might have seen some, like a to-do list example. There's a lot of to-do lists examples out there and repositories of them and written in different languages, different frameworks, and so on, which are fine, but they're not terribly feature-rich. It's maybe 2 endpoints, right? So Real World is a little more complex than that. It is a Medium.com clone. So if you're familiar with Medium.com, it's a popular blog site. I guess you call it a blog site, or you know, kind of a social writing site, something like that. So you can sign up for a Medium account. You can start writing blog posts. You can follow other people on Medium. You can you know, follow different tags and things like that on Medium. Tag your content, and that's what it is. So this is Conduit, and here's a demo of it here. You'll see it's very much like Medium. So a lot of blog posts, tags, you can follow, you can leave comments, and so on. And so the idea here is that there's lots of different examples of an implementation of Conduit that are built with a variety of different front-end and back-end technologies. So let's just look here. We go over to Codebase Show. It's going to show the real-world project. And now I can get a list of all the different implementations. So I'm mostly interested in back-end. So the back-end of Conduit has been written dozens of times in different frameworks and languages and tools. So for instance, we've got an implementation written with Actix Web and Diesel, whatever that is. It looks like it's a Rust implementation. So it's a Rust backend that uses these frameworks. Here's some ASP.NET Core. Uses C#. ASP Core with a microservices backend. That might be a little overkill for this, but if you're doing large scale like Medium, maybe. Also written in C#. So there's all different databases as well. So I think these ASP.NET Cores, they're all using SQLite. But here's one that uses AWS Lambdas, which is their serverless functions, and DynamoDB, which is their NoSQL database. And that's written in Go. So if I am interested in learning more about these frameworks, if let's say I want to learn about Express and Prisma, well, then I'll just pull down this code. So this is a GitHub repo this links to. I can pull down this code and look through the source. I don't know anything about these technologies, but it looks like this is a TypeScript implementation of some endpoints to create articles, and I could start learning about, okay, this is how I use Prisma. This is how best to use Prisma in a Express app, that sort of thing. So lots of implementations here, but you might notice if I search for the word Couchbase, there isn't one. No Couchbase implementations for the real world project. Well, we got to do something about that, and that's what my project is. I'm going to be building a Conduit real-world backend using my choice, of course, ASP.NET. So I'll be using ASP.NET Core with Couchbase. So Mine will be on this list eventually. It'll say ASP.NET Core plus Couchbase. So if I'm a developer and I want to learn about Couchbase and I know ASP.NET Core, and I know C#, this would be a great example for me to follow along with. So it's totally an open source implementation, and that's what we're going to do. So there's some great guides here about how to get started. So if you want to make your own real world implementation, you can absolutely do that using the technology that you like the most. So maybe you maybe you're not so much into .NET. Maybe you want to make a Rails implementation and see how that goes. And post out there as an example. So the way we do this, I think I already linked to this, but there's a API spec. So for every website you want to deploy with Conduit, there's a front end and a back end. So the front end is all like JavaScript or maybe Blazor or Wasm, something like that, something browser based, right? That's going to make calls to the back end. And so hypothetically, let's go back to this page. I could pair up any of these backends with any of these front ends because it follows the same API spec. So if I wanted a halogen front end in PureScript, whatever that is, with an ASP.NET Core backend, I could absolutely match those up. There's also some full stack implementations. So these are using, everything front end to back end. This is the full enchilada, if you will. I'm going to focus on back end mainly, though. I'm not much of a front end developer. And that light is really just kind of searing my forehead, isn't it? Let's see if we can turn it down a little bit. There we go. So to create these, there's a lot of documentation and tools to help you do this. So you can of course, just go on your own, right? But you can fork a starter kit, which is what I'll probably be doing. There's a Postman collection you can use for testing, which I'll probably also be doing. Then there's the endpoints. So this contains all the specs for each endpoint. So these are the endpoints that the front ends are all expecting there to be. So you can see a list over here. Get current user, update user, get profile, follow user, etc. Those are all there. So if I want to go on to follow user, okay, well this is what the follow user endpoint looks like. It has to be this URL. It's expecting a post, requires authentication, returns a profile. There's more definitions about what that is, and no parameters needed for that. So here's what a profile looks like. So these are all the different business objects that we'll be working with and returning and passing around. And so that's the project. So if you go ahead and type current project in the chat, I thought it would, maybe it doesn't work for me. That'll show you a link to this real world project there. I think the bot's working. Is the bot not working today? Let's give it a try. I was just working on this thing. Okay, it says bot ready. It's possible that because I use an Azure app service that it does spin down if it's not being used over a certain period of time, right? It goes up and down as you need demand. But I was just using it for trivia right before this. Okay, well, I guess it's not working today. I was just testing yesterday and it was working fine, but decided not to work today. Well, I got to figure out what the deal is with that. But it's okay. We can soldier on. I'll work on that offline. I spent enough time working on the bot on the last episode. So okay, so let's get started writing some code. Maybe not jump right into writing code, but we can do a little organization. So this is a GitHub project. And I've got this in kind of a Kanban card-based view. So before I do anything there, let's go ahead and go into the, let's see, the starter kit. I'm going to go ahead and fork this. So here's the starter kit. You can see there's not much in it. It's a README mainly, and I'm meant to actually start making changes to that README and have various links. fill in the how it works section, fill in the getting started section, and so on. So I'll go ahead and fork this. You can see this is a very popular project. There's 1.5K, 1,500 forks of this already. So I'm going to go ahead and fork this, and I'm going to put it under M Groves. So this is going to be Real World Framework Backend Implementation, ASP.NET, and Couchbase. And maybe I should just call it Conduit Implementation. That's what I'm calling my. Whoop! What happened there? Just copy this. The same name as the GitHub project. Okay, and there we go. Creating a fork. Should not take that long, but there we go. So now I've got a GitHub repo in place. So with this, now the GitHub projects, I can go ahead and start adding items to the project. Maybe. Oh, here we go. Start. So I got to add item. Where's the add item? I start typing it down here, the name of the item. So let's go back to this and the specs. And we got some authentication. So let's make that the first item. And I'm going to convert that to an issue for the, where is it? I see my repository in here. Do I need to enable projects or something? Link a project. There we go. Let's just do that. So I linked that project. Okay. So there is the project. Right. Convert to issue. But it's not showing up. Well, we're already hit a snag here. Just in the organization. So, well, interesting which projects are coming up here and which ones aren't. I'll do another refresh here. Maybe it hasn't quite figured out the link yet. Okay. Back to my repositories. Here's my fork, a real world starter kit. Oh, there's no issues here. Why aren't there any issues here? That's probably why I can't add an issue to this, because issues aren't enabled. Can I not have issues on a fork? Let's see here. Issues, there we go. So I can just add issues, and that should be good enough. Okay, now I should be able to do it. There it is. Okay. So there's the description. I'll go back to the endpoint here, and I'm just going to say, I'm just going to paste this in. Put a link to the specs. I could probably make this look a little nicer. Example request body. No authentication required, returns a user. So there we go. So I've kind of combined these two, authentication header and authentication, into one endpoint. Okay, so now I will add another item, registration. Registration is going to be just this. I'll make that into an issue first. Oh, you know what? The description should be up here, not a comment. Okay, so there's the code there, and registration. Okay. Yeah, so this, I should take all this, put it up here in the description. I don't know if there's much difference, but And can I delete this? I guess not. Okay, I'll just put the word delete in there. Okay, so you see where this is going. I've got 2 tasks here in my to-do. We're not going to get to all these today. Let's just add one more for the rule of 3 here. Get current user. Maybe I can just call this endpoint, get current user. Convert to issue. This is the kind of tedious project management stuff that just have to do in a real world anyway. If I was just wanted to blast through this project and get an implementation done, I could probably do that pretty quickly. But that wouldn't really be real world, now would it? Okay, so there we go, and there'll be, I'll go ahead and change this. Oops. Can I change the title? Yeah, so this is going to be endpoints registration, and this is going to be authentication and what is it called? And login endpoint. There's really 2 things here, right? So I have to set up authentication for the whole project, and I have to set up a login endpoint. And this is using JWT. So that's, what does that stand for? Something web token, right? We can ask Bard. What does JWT stand for? See if Bard knows. Taking time, Bard. So, okay, so I'm kind of been disappointed with Bard already because it's not giving me many answers here. If I go over to ChatGPT, let's see what it has to say. So it gives me an answer immediately. JSON web token. That's right. There we go. So the problem with this, of course, is that ChatGPT can be wrong. And in fact, it warns you it can be wrong. So I can, just to double check, do a quick search, and there's a Wikipedia article, which Wikipedia can also be wrong too. But chances are, if this was egregiously wrong, it would have been updated by now. JWTs are relatively popular. So it is JSON web token, and ChatGPT was right about that. And I'm not even using ChatGPT 4, I don't think. Yeah, I'm using 3.5 still. Although I am a ChatGPT Plus subscriber now, so I can switch to 4 if I want to. So there we go. That is a JWT. I've never done JWTs before, so that'll be interesting to see how that works. I don't think it's going to be terribly difficult to do. But there we go. So I can add these more endpoints later. Maybe someone watching, not you, Calvin. You already do enough. But someone else watching could go in there and add them at some point. So I'm trying to get back to my repo without having to type anything. Okay, there we go. So Real World Starter Kit. So what we could do is, again, there's lots of these examples out there already of Real World Starter Kit or of real world implementations. So I could just go and look at one of these ASP.NET ones and see what they did for JWT. All right, so here's a Conduit. And I'll probably look in, startup? See what they did for JWT. So using Mediator, something I might want to use for my project as well as Mediator. Some validation stuff going on here. What else we got? So this is database. So I think, yeah, it's using SQLite. Oh, it can also support SQL Server. Look at that. It can support 2 of them. That's interesting. Let's see. Localization. I don't think that's required for the spec, but that's a nice thing to add. Swagger. Yep, that's perfect for this type of backend. I can skip over that for now, though. Cores, I think, is required for these projects. MVC. So this looks like it's doing some conventions and things. Filters. I don't see anything about authentication or authorization yet. Automapper. Okay, there it is. Add JWT. So that might be all there is to it. Services.add.jwt. Let's look further in the configure and see if there's anything in there. This doesn't look like an ASP.NET 7 project. This is ASP.NET Core 7, so maybe ASP.NET Core 6. Let's see. Authentication. So that might be it. It might just be add JWT and use authentication. Now there's probably going to be a endpoint for logging in, right? Where would that be? Features? Users? Check the symbol references on the right when highlighting line 125. 031. Thanks for stopping in. You're talking about if I click on this, it'll tell me where it's used. Yes, that is a very cool feature of GitHub here. So yeah, that's the startup extension. Oh, looks like he wrote his own add JWT. Okay, interesting. I thought it was actually a library, just a middleware library, but this is something that was coded by this author. So I might want to borrow this, or I might want to look into something that's already pre-built, if possible. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I was going to look to see if I could find a login endpoint. Yeah, thanks very much, Calvin. I appreciate that. Let's see. Infrastructure? Well, there's security infrastructure, JWT token generator, etc. Let's see. Features, users, user controller. This is those users, user and users. So this is already assuming you've logged in. What about users controller? Create. Okay, so here's the login. Okay, so it's using mediator, and it's going to send the login command to mediator. Okay, so where would that be? Did you see a login anywhere? Features, users, login. Login. Okay. Persons. Okay, so this is using Conduit context, which is probably entity framework, right? It's being passed in, and so it's just looking in the database, see if that person exists, and if they don't exist, okay. So at the end, if they match and the password matches, some automapper to get the user out of the entity framework object into the domain object. And then here's the token generator. So this is kind of the main thing. Once they're logged in, it will create a token for them. And then from that point on, this is a user envelope thing, I'm not sure what that is. From that point on, as long as they have that token, it's not expired, they can get all the endpoints as long as they pass that token to it. Let's see what this user envelope is. User envelope. User envelope. Where is the declaration of that? Am I missing that? User envelope. I'm looking for a class user envelope. In this file, yeah. I don't see a user envelope class. I wonder if that is a security, like part of a library or something. That would be odd though, wouldn't it? I don't know. Is there a user envelope? There's no user envelope file. Okay, well, I don't know. All right, so that doesn't look too complicated. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is kind of the homegrown, it may not be, but kind of the homegrown JWT handling. I'd be concerned about that maybe getting out of date or something. So I'd want to use as much built-in or NuGet library stuff for authentication, especially, as possible. So with that in mind, let's go back to Visual Studio here, and I'm going to close this solution, and let's open up the folder where I haven't cloned it yet. So I'm going to go to, this is my big project folder I call zproj for historical reasons. I'm going to clone my repo from my fork here. Let's copy this. And I'll do that, and Real World Starter Kit is a good folder. Well, I probably want to change the name, right? Like Real World, ASP.NET, Couchbase, something like that. Yeah, can I change the name of the repo before I go any further here? Yeah, Real World, ASP.NET, Couchbase. Rename. Okay, beautiful. All right, now I'll copy this, go back here, and clone it. Okay, and there we go. So just a few files, nothing special there. Just get repo started. And I'm going to create a new project. It's going to be an ASP.NET Core Web API project. I think that makes sense. ASP.NET Core Web App, or no, Core Web API, yes. Okay, and it's going to be called Conduit, of course. And it's going to be in that folder I just created. Okay, so it's going to create a project. Okay, I'm going to call the project conduit.web, just in case I create other projects like conduit.test, for instance, eventually. And solution is going to be called Conduit. So that seems fine. I could put it in src. All right, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, everybody in the chat? Should I use src subfolder, or should I just use Conduit subfolder directly? Any opinions on that? You're an src man yourself. And why is that, Calvin? Explain yourself. Why would you use src? I know nothing about .NET programming, so what's the normal way? Well, so I normally don't use src, but in this case, I'm forking from this existing project. And I don't know what I think the ASP.NET, the example we just looked at used src. Right, yeah. So Calvin does it because he has other files at the root that are not source. So technically README isn't source, right? I mean, it's markdown, so it kind of is. But, you know, logo is not source, favicon is not source. So it might make sense to put in there. I think we should ask ChatGPT. And I can't get to my Visual Studio folder, so I'll just go to the browser directly. And let's ask ChatGPT 4, just for fun. What are the pros, cons of using a source folder in a project as opposed to putting the project directly in the root of a repository? And I like to do this. I like to sort of be more specific. So list 10 things in a bulleted list. Keep them short. I do have a VS extension that lets me view any browser or any web page in my Visual Studio. But I can't do it right now because I'm in the middle of this wizard. So let's see. Let's see what ChatGPT has to say. Here's a list of potential pros and cons for using an src folder. So organization, this is Calvin's point, keeps it separate from non-code related files. Easier navigation, all the code found in one place. I guess so. Standard practice. It's common convention to many developers. All right. Testing. Easier to separate testing files from the source code. We're just going to put another folder like test. I'm not sure if I want to put my tests into a different folder, but maybe. Build tool configurations. Some build tools require a SRC folder. All right. Cons. Overhead. If the project is small, having SRC folder may be unnecessarily complex. Unfamiliar. If you don't know what SRC means, it may be confusing. Okay, that's fair enough. Extra nesting. This is the thing that I really find is the main con, is a lot of extra nesting. Nesting can already get really bad because you have like a bin /debug /net.7 /package, and then you add SRC on top of that. It's a bit much. So 031 says, ChatGPT is my new pair programmer. Just take all code recommendations with a grain of salt. Absolutely. We talked about that already with FizzBuzz, although ChatGPT and Bard and Google Copilot all did a great job with FizzBuzz. So we're going to see how it does with a more real-world application. That's the whole point of this project. Conflicts with other structures. Some tools may have a different recommendation. Okay, not a big deal. Possible inconsistency. If not all files fit neatly into the SRC and other categories, it may lead to inconsistency in project structure. Okay, I don't know. So really, I think it comes down to, in my mind, organization, separating the code from not code is a pro, and extra nesting as the main con. So I think what I can do is start without SRC and see how it goes. I can move it in SRC later in the worst case. All right, so we're going to go with that. Next step. So .NET 7 standard term support. There's not an LTS .NET 7 yet, I don't think. Maybe we can double check on that. .NET 7 LTS. It all depends, too, on how many projects you think you'll end up having. Yeah, if you only have one project, I might have a test project. It's possible I'd have a data access project. Not sure. Yeah, there's no 7.1 yet, so we're in standard term support, which is fine. I think an upgrade to .NET 7.1 would not be that big of a deal. But it's not even an option here. There's no 6.1 either, so whatever. All right, authentication type. No JWT is an option, so I'm not going to do that. So 031, Elixir apps, we put all code in lib, basically source, and then other things like configs, tests, build artifacts, etc. go in their own as well. So with .NET, the build artifacts, I think you can override it, but by default, they end up in a subfolder of your source folder. So I might have source /conduit /conduit.web, and then in that would be, if I compile, there's going to be a bin folder, an obj folder. So the binaries, obviously the compiled binaries, will go into the bin folder, but it doesn't stop there. Inside a bin, you'll have debug and release, potentially, maybe even others. And then inside debug and release, you'll have like .NET 7 folder. And then inside of that, if you're doing like a package deployment, you might have a packages folder or a publish folder, something like that. So it can get really long directory. So that's why I kind of want to not make it worse by putting SRC in there. But it might not come into play at all. But yeah, certainly other languages, other frameworks have different ways of structuring their projects. All right. You can also have the architecture in there now too. Architecture. Oh, you mean like infrastructure as code sort of thing? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, you're talking about in the folder tree. Yeah, certainly. You could have bin. That's right. I think I forgot about that. You can have x64. You could have ARM. Whatever could be in there as well. All right. So HTTPS, yes, of course. Enable Docker. Not going to go to. Not going to worry about Docker right now. Controllers. Unchecked to use minimal APIs. I'm going to not use minimal APIs this time. I have nothing against them. There's actually some really cool things you can do with minimal APIs that you can't do with, I don't know, what's the opposite of minimal APIs? Maximal APIs. But I don't think I'm going to run into those with this project. I'm not worried about that. Open API support, yes, this is the Swagger stuff. Do not use top-level statements. Again, I have nothing against top-level statements. These are great for, especially for people who are coming over from the Node world or possibly the Elixir world, because there's a lot. You can omit a lot of ceremony of all like the namespace and the main and all that kind of stuff. But for this project, I would rather have those there, because it just, to me, it's a little more organized, a little more familiar for me. So I'm going to go with that. There are people who have strong feelings about this. Either way, I don't have super strong feelings. I just going to go with what I'm familiar with. Okay, let's get this started. All right. So there is the project. So in the folder, I've got Conduit, and then here's the solution. Java is getting a form of top-level statement now too. Oh, well, there you go. Hey, Zero Juan, thanks for joining. Hey, oh, that's cool. I'm glad you came to the NDC talk. That was a high point of my career, actually, was getting accepted to NDC. Unfortunately, it was 2020, so I couldn't actually go to Oslo. Maybe in the future, but I appreciate you coming by, and thanks for checking out that NDC session. That was a fun one. So in this folder, we've got the solution file, which solution is like a collection of projects essentially, and there's the web. And so you see these are the bin object folders, and there's debug and net7, and I haven't compiled anything yet, but that's where they'll be. So there we go. Got a web project in place. Let's take a look at the code. So one of the things that's a little different to me about, I think this is a ASP.NET 7 thing, is that there's a program, but there's no startup CS anymore, which is fine. I always felt like there was a little bit of redundancy between those two. So we've got web application create builder. One of the weird things it does here is, wait, where's my, there we go. It doesn't, where is the, it's not adding in the app settings. By default, which is kind of strange for the template. It creates an app settings, but doesn't actually have the code to include that configuration. Or maybe it does app settings by default, but not app settings development. It's off of builder. I think builder. That's what I was going off of. This is builder, right? So configuration. Oh, there we go. Well, look at this. This is some GitHub Copilot here. Doesn't seem to be quite right though. Let's just see what happens. Add app settings.json to builder configuration. Okay, well, I think there we go. So I don't really need that on a separate file. Let's add it up here. And there we go. We just had GitHub Copilot save me some Googling, save me some headaches. Hopefully this works. It might be part of the base create build though. So I'll make this one optional false, and I'm also going to add one for, oh wait, oh I think I see what you're saying here, Calvin. Because it's off of configuration, like this. If you can drill into create builder, you might like be in here, maybe? Like an overload or something? Is that what you're getting at? I just did this recently, so I can also just kind of check my own project. Let's see. This is the Twitch bot. Open this with Notepad and take a look here. Okay, so this is what I did over here, builder.configuration. So why don't I go ahead and just do that? That seems to work just fine. Instead of coming off of this, I'll come off of builder. .configuration, like so. And this also adds in the environment app settings files if I plan to use those. And also going to add in environment variables. So if this gets deployed to Azure, which it probably will, I will want to configure some of those things with environment variables. So I'll leave that in there too. Okay. Yeah, I already know about Swagger and whatnot. Okay, so this is kind of the separation that it used to be. It would be between two different functions. Oh, look, it's giving me a suggestion for more asterisks. Okay, great. A certain number of asterisks, I guess, is suggested to me by GitHub Copilot. That's the proper number of asterisks. But anyway, there's a separation here, in my mind anyway, between the builder and the app. So the app obviously comes from the builder, but there's certain things you do in the app and certain things you do in the builder. So, okay. Everything else here looks fine to me. This actually has a controller already, doesn't it? Yeah, this weather forecast. So let's go ahead and run this, see if it works. Okay, says weather forecast. Try it out, execute, and there we go. Return some JSON. So that's working, and so is the Swagger portion of it. This is all Swagger, Open API, whatever you want to call it. Automatically generated, which is very cool. These cool schemas in here, which we might take advantage of as well. But so that's working just fine. However, I don't need any weather forecast stuff. So let's get rid of that. Yeah, I don't need that. So is that all the weather forecast stuff? Yep, okay. So now I've got no controllers and not doing anything. But let's look into some JWP. So why don't we start by, how do I add JWT to an ASP.NET Core 7 application? So this will be interesting to see how it answers. It's a very comprehensive answer. This is GPT-4, I believe. So there is a NuGet package called JWT Bearer that comes from Microsoft. So let's see if that package actually exists, because sometimes it has recommended packages to me that do not exist. Which is sometimes disappointing. If I'm like, oh, is a package for that? Oh, no, you just made it up. Okay, so there is one, and it's got 355 million total downloads. So seems like that's probably something I'll have to be using. A very popular package. Did not realize JWT was that popular. Wow. 356 million. That's nearly like Entity Framework levels of popularity. So probably need to use that. Okay, here's how I configure it in the startup file. So we add authentication, JWT Bearer. So this is a really, easy, just copy paste, add services. I don't know about this issuer signing key. Got to look into that. What these values are supposed to be. Replace with your issuer, replace with your audience. I don't know what those things mean, so I got to look those up. And then app use authentication. And then you add the authorize attribute to the appropriate controllers. So there's nothing here that actually logs in a user. So what about logging in a user? See if it apologizes to me. Nope, doesn't apologize. Just goes ahead and gives me the code. So implement user login functionality, JWT. Okay, setup authorization authentication. Okay, that's in the previous response. Create a login endpoint. Validate user's credentials. Perform necessary authentication logic. So this is where I'll look in the database, I assume. See if the user is there. Generate a token and return OK new token. Replace with your own token generation logic. Why do I need my own token generation logic? So here is the method, claims, symmetric security key. Okay. Don't know what that means. Users and login endpoint, validate. Yep. Credential, generate. Yep. Return token to the client. Yep, that's it. Okay. I'm going to customize the code and replace the placeholder values with your actual values. Okay, interesting. Well, let's just give it a try. Let's see how far we go with this. We'll just follow ChatGPT until something doesn't quite work. So here's the token, or the NuGet package. And I'm going to go with non-preview release. I'm guessing that stuff is for .NET 8. So I'm not going to go there just yet. All right. Now add this to startup CS file. So that's going to be what, down here. So this is clearly from ASP6 or something. This is where ChatGPT is pulling from kind of older code examples, I think. You need to say builder.services. Or maybe there's a way to structure this differently, I don't know, but builder.services. So all this stuff seems to be fine. I don't know what these things are supposed to be, though, so I need to ask about that. Let me just put some more code in here. App.use authentication, so that will be down. You know, I'll probably put that at the top. Okay. And then add authorize attribute to endpoints, which I don't have any yet. Okay, and then it also talks about logging in a user. We'll get to that. First, I want to know what does valid issuer mean? When it comes to JWT. What value should I use there? Refers to the expected issuer or issuing authority of the token. It represents the entity or service that issued the token. When validating JWT, the valid issuer is used to verify that the token's issuer matches the expected value. The value depends on your specific application and how you handle token issuance. Here are a few scenarios to consider. Okay. Single issuer. You should use the exact value of the issuer. So, like a URL. Multiple issuers. Okay. Actual issuer token. So I'm issuing the tokens, right? Does valid issuer need to be a URL? No. It's common, but it could be any string that uniquely identifies the issuing entity. Okay. So URLs are globally unique. So any value I want to. Okay. Well, I'll just, put something in there. I don't know, Conduit, ASP, net, Couchbase. Why not? Okay. Is valid audience going to be the same thing? What about valid audience? What value should that have in my JWT configuration? Intended audience for the token. So this looks very similar. Okay. Can I just make this issuer and make this one audience? Let me go and check the example that this person used, because they had some sort of custom thing. There you go. Okay, that's not it. Let's see. A startup, whether did that? Startup, and then add JWT, And we went over to that. Issuer. Okay, so all this person uses issuer and audience. Okay, so that seems fine. This might be something that if you were moving to production, you might want to make that specific for your application. Since this is a real world example, I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, what about your secret key? I assume that just has to be. You can pull this stuff from a configuration as well, right? Instead of hard coding it. Okay, what should your secret key be? Long, random, and unique string that is known by the issuer and the recipient. It's a shared secret. Okay. Minimum length of 32 characters. All right. So let's, how about this? Give me a random 32 character string made up of letters, numbers, and punctuation. I'm worried if I say symbols, it's going to put some emojis or some crazy stuff in there. So one of the things that I think is a limitation of ChatGPT, I don't know, maybe I'm just not doing it right, but sometimes what if I say give me a 32 character something, or give me a word that's 5 letters long, it's going to return stuff that's not that exact length. So this is a good place to double check. Is this 32 characters? Yes, it is. So good job, ChatGPT. You did it. Okay. I may want to move this stuff to app settings. I'm not sure about that yet. Okay. All right. What's next? How are we doing on time? We're doing just fine. Okay, let's go back up to the endpoint here. I need a login endpoint. So I need to create probably a authentication controller. Let's call it auth controller. How's that? Controller, some sort of constructor, and this is the login endpoint. Now I don't have a login view model. I don't have a generate JWT token. I'm kind of wondering why there's a custom JWT token. You'd think that this would have something built in that I could use to generate a token. So what's this library called again? Is there a method in that library to generate a JWT token for me? It says no, it does not have one. You use a dedicated library or JWT token generation tool. So there's one called tokens JWT. There's an example of how to use that. It's still a lot of, I have to write a whole method myself. It's interesting. That's a string. It's interesting. So, I don't know. Let's go back up to the generate JWT token. Let's put that over here. Private method. Oh, okay. So this is... Okay. All right. Login from body. Okay. So this is where I've got to copy and paste this stuff. So this is a good reason probably not to hard code it. Let's make sure it works first. And then I can refactor this. How's that sound? Okay. Yep, I did that. I did that. Whoops, what happens? Did that. Yep. Expiration time, 1 hour. Let's make it longer. Just so I don't have to worry about it. Okay. Okay, so now I need a login view model. So let's go back to the spec here. So this is supposed to be API/users/login. So let's go ahead and change that. All right. So that matches the spec. And the request body needs to look like this. I'm just going to paste it here so I can look at it. Okay. So it's interesting that I'm pasting this object that contains an object. This seems kind of redundant to me, but whatever. User, email, and password. So let's create a, I might rethink about how I organize this, but let's create a folder called View Models. And I will create a login view model class in there. Okay, now the weird thing to me is the structure of this JSON. Like, if I were to parse this directly into a .NET object, it would look like user, and then I'd have another class. Oops, I forgot how to write the word class. That would have, I still forgot how to write the word class. Public string email and public string password. And then this would parse this JSON correctly. So I'm going to go email. .user.email. So this needs to be a to-do right here to check database, make sure credentials match. Yeah. Yep, okay. And it also says something about authorization in the headers. So every one of these requests that requires authorization should have the token in the header. And we'll see if this does that automatically or not. I'm not sure. Authentication does not require authentication because you have to start somewhere to be authenticated. Returns a user. So we look at user. So this is the request, and it's going to return this. So if we go back to this controller, this is what it needs to return. Let me look at this one more time here. So this is the request, email, password. Returns a user that has the token in it. I work at State Farm. Jake from State Farm. That's great. Okay. Interesting. So this is a user. Does anything else return a user? Registration does. Get current user does. And that's it. So I think I'll need another folder here. Let's just call it models for now. And that's going to contain, that's where I'm going to put my user. So this user represents something that's going to be in the database, whereas this view model represents something that's going to be returned to the API. So I'm not ever going to store a login view model in the database. I'm only using that to return a user from this endpoint. So model user, okay. So this should all be in the user class. There is a way, as an extension or something, to convert JSON to C#. But you know what else I could do? Make a C# user class that corresponds to this JSON. Let's see if ChatGPT can do it for us. Well, it's giving me way too much information. This is all I really wanted right here, was these 5 properties. Okay, there we go. So it tried to match the user colon stuff, which I already have in the login view model. But let me think about this some more. So this login view model, actually, I don't need user in there. I need login. I need another class, really, because all I really need is email and password. Oh, it looks like it's writing it for me, and I skipped past it. There we go. Okay. So again, I'm not saving this in the database. This is just being passed to me from the API, for whoever's using the API, to tell me, please log me in. Login view model, login user. I'll change this to say login user view model. So to keep some consistency there, and I need to move it out of a class just yet. Okay, but this needs to return see, it's not going to be, yeah, it's just going to be return okay, because this should be asynchronous actually. Return okay, new, user equals new user, and this should probably be moved to mediator eventually, right? But the user is going to be, so we're expecting the user to already be in the database, right? User from database. And we could put, yeah. Okay. Yeah, something like that. Whoops. Well, it's conflicting with something. There we go. Okay. So user from database, and yeah. Don't even need this part. But I do need to pull these from the database. But I think we can put that off as a to-do for now. Just see if this works for authentication purposes, I guess. All these different utilities want to take over a tab and enter for completion drives me bananas. So yeah, well, Calvin, you live in the world of Visual Studio extensions, so it's got to be especially bad for you. If you're trying out new extensions all the time or working with extensions, it's got to be, they're all fighting for tab. Or Alt F5 maybe, I don't know. Or, oh, sorry, not Alt F5, Alt Enter. Okay, so let's get an endpoint just to test this out, just to make sure this works. And I'll just call this delete controller. Delete me controller. Make sure to vote my abstract up really high for momentum. Calvin, you know I have integrity. I won't do that unless you send me a check for $50. How'd you know I was on the Momentum selection committee anyway? Is this a you just told me situation? All right, so I want just a you vote me up, I'll vote you up. Oh, because you're also on the, okay, you're also on the committee. That would explain it. Okay, so I just want an endpoint here that's going to just test to make sure that this works. Just going to call it route delete me. Okay, so right now, if I run this, let's make sure it compiles. Okay, let's put an OK in there. Oh, it's not going to work. Hey, it's Teo Learn Code. What's going on? Thanks for stopping in. Always good to know who's on a conference selection committee. Yeah, it is. You can send them a nice fruit basket. Okay, so this is no authorization right now. I spelled it wrong. Delete me. That matters. And failed to load API definition. What did I do wrong there? Edible arrangements. You know, my wife actually can has made those before. She can make them. She's got all the tools and the know-how to cut all the fruit up in fancy shapes and put them on sticks and make a little bouquet of fruit. It's pretty cool. What did I do wrong here? Is this what I did wrong, or is something else? Okay, so I did something. This broke something. Yeah, they're expensive, but well, I'm not saying she sells them, but you know, she's made them as gifts before. They are very expensive, that's for sure. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? Task, action, results. Probably why she learned how to do it herself. I think it was, because I mean, she started doing this way back in the day when we barely had, you know, 2 dimes to rub together. She learned how to do this, and yeah, because they are mighty expensive. For good reason, probably, because it's fresh fruit, right? It's time sensitive. Let's see. What the heck? Do I need to? Oh, because I didn't put anything on here, maybe? Is that why? I put HTTP GET? I thought I had a default. No, I guess not. Okay. Okay, so this should work fine. Execute, and it worked. Okay. Now I want to add authorization to it. Is it the authorize tag? Is that what I put on there? Or is it something else? Authorize, yep. Okay. All right, so now if I do this, what is Swagger going to look like? So delete me, try it out, and 401. Great. But there's no place for me to put in the JWT, which may be on purpose. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, there's my, wow, that's a long thing. Is that stored in a cookie somewhere, or? No, that's not it. That's a different thing. So does that mean if I do this again, it's going to put in the header for me? No, looks like it's not going to. So Teo Learn Code is not only, he's the one and only Chad. He is also on a selection committee. You need to add a header to your request, keep track of your JWT. Yes, that's true. How do I do that in Swagger? Play around with JWT.io. Oh, I can decode it. Can I decode this one right here? That'd be pretty cool. Not sure you can in Swagger. Well, that's kind of lame. Yeah, the selection is already done, so I'm not getting any fruit baskets. Look at that, it decodes it. There's my payload. Those are the issuer and audience that I put in there. So JWT is not encrypted. It is completely just an encoding. Very interesting. I can put in a secret here to verify it. But anyway. So how do I use JWT in Swagger? Or can I use JWT in Swagger? That's maybe why I need Postman. But let's just ask ChatGPT. How can I use JWT in Swagger / OpenAPI? Configure authentication. So is this a setting I have to make in the Swagger settings? Now using the bearer scheme. In parameter location header type. You're going on a cruise instead of momentum. Well, which cruise is it? You know we got to talk about cruises on this Twitch channel. That's one thing that's not changed over the years. I will always talk about cruises. In fact, what have I got right here? Oh, look at that. I won this on my last cruise. Star Wars trivia contest. I got 19 out of 20. Totally dominated. Let's see. Yeah, I already have the swashbuckle stuff in there. Yep. Security scheme. Carnival Pride from Rome. So I think we talked about this maybe at the MVP Summit or something. Carnival Pride from Rome to several ports in Greece, Turkey, and Sicily. How long is the cruise? We thought about maybe booking a Grecian cruise for our next up cruise. So we've got one in December out of Galveston. Just a Christmas cruise. They call it Maritime Cruise. It's Disney. And then we've got one booked next summer with Royal for a Norwegian cruise out of Southampton, England. So the first one's 6, second one's 7 days. And then we thought maybe for our 22nd anniversary, maybe we could do one in the Mediterranean somewhere, maybe Greece or whatnot. 10-day cruise would be super nice. The longest I've ever done is, I think, 7. We had booked an 8-day cruise in 2020 and 2021 that just never happened. But never booked anything longer than 7. You got a cruise in February from Sydney around New Zealand. That would be tremendous as well. The problem for me with a cruise in Australia / New Zealand is that the cost of airfare to get there would be way more than the cost of the cruise. So that's an issue. But that would be an amazing cruise as well. New Zealand would be something very cool to cruise around. So let's see. This is giving me how to do it, not much explanation. So I want to go and look at the swashbuckle documentation and just see if there's anything for JWT. This is .NET Core 3. This is an older question on Stack Overflow. But there's this add security requirement stuff. Is that what it was doing here? Yeah. Same sort of thing there. Add security requirement. Add security definition. Location. Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to go with what it's saying there. This seems to match up the documentation. Where was that again? That was Swagger doc services add Swagger. Where is that? Add Swagger Gen? Wait, I know I have something like this, right? Swagger doc? No? Okay, well, whatever. Okay. C. C is what? Oh wait, hang on. I'm way. Okay. I'm completely doing this wrong. I gotta paste that whole thing in here. And this should again be builder.services. If you're not sure you're going to go because of that very reason, the airfare. Yeah, that is really tough. It's definitely on a list of cruises I want to take. And the Asia cruise would be amazing as well. That airfare might not be as bad, but probably be pretty bad. So it might be something when the kids are graduated at college or whatever, that it's only just the two of us. So only two of those really expensive tickets. And maybe there's like a airfare off season or something. We can get a discounted ticket and line up a cruise somehow. I don't know. Main cabin is $3,500 each for the airfare. I assume you mean to Australia. That is so much. I mean that's pretty much the full price of a cruise, especially on Carnival cruise, right? Royal could be a little pricier, and of course, I mean that's even approaching Disney cruise prices. So, but might be worth it. Once in a lifetime sort of thing. Okay. So we got all this stuff pasted in here. Let's see if this does anything. And what it does. Two of my... Oh, you know what? I've got Swagger Gen in here twice. I probably need to cut that out. Okay, let's try this again. Why isn't it starting up my browser? What's going on here? So here it is. Open the browser. Is this it right here? Okay. So let me try it out. It's not saying anything about putting in a token. A JWT, right? So I can still go delete me, and there's nothing, there's no place to paste the JWT. So something's not right. What did I miss? Swagger. Why do I need to set route prefix to empty? Why would I want to do that? Use Swagger. Let me just pin this real quick. Swagger endpoint. That's fine. It's just kind of using a default value. Why route prefix? So let me ask. Why? Yeah, means it's surfing the root URL application. Okay. By default, it hosted at the Swagger endpoint. Well, see, that's okay. I don't want to do that though. I don't think that has to do with anything, so I'm not going to do that. Add security requirements. Let's just try a rebuild here. It's not opening my web page. There we go. Okay, and it's still nothing showing up here in terms of, oh wait, what's this? Aha! Look at that. Okay, now we're cooking. So if I take this token and I try executing delete and I get a 401, and then I put in my token, now I'm logged in and execute. It worked. I don't think the sample app used bearer for the scheme. I think it said token. It's working. So you're talking about over here for a scheme. Let's see anything else where it says scheme. What am I missing? Scheme equals bearer. Okay, you think that's just web page you were looking at before talking about the requirements. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're talking about the specs. Where are my specs? Here we go. I think it's a token. So, I don't see. Are you talking about this right here? Token, space? Is that what the header is supposed to say? Token colon? Or authorization token? So what is... Can I view that header somewhere? Authorization bearer. That says in the scheme is token, not bearer. Yours works, so I don't know. Well, so it might work, but it might be following the spec, right? So if what you're saying is correct, I could change this from bearer to token. Like there? Is that what we're talking here? It's pretty slick if that's if this is all I need to do. Get this to work. It's not opening my browser again. What are you waiting for? Open browser. Let's go. Control F5. It's running the app, but it's not opening the browser. Not sure why they went token instead of bearer, because that's kind of what bearer means anyway. Yeah, I don't know. It could just be, you know, that's what they picked arbitrarily. Maybe to make sure people are paying attention. I don't know. Well, I don't understand why it's not loading. Maybe this is loading. I'm just not seeing it pop up. Okay. So let's do this again. We try it out, execute, and 401. This is bearer right here, though. That might be a different bearer. I don't know. Okay, authorize, try it out, execute. Give me that big old token. Unsupported scheme token. Okay. Oh. Okay, so I've pasted something where I shouldn't go. Okay, so scheme needs to be bearer, right? But maybe the ID should be token. And this should, maybe that's all it needs to be. Okay. Okay, try it out. 401, yep, okay, authorize, execute. Still saying 401. So something's busted. Maybe like this. Just kind of experimenting here. Don't really know what I'm doing. Okay, try it out, execute 401, yep. Try it out, execute, give me a big old token. Come on, there we go. Authorize, close, executes. Okay, that worked. All right. But yes, and then it's authorization still says bearer right there instead of token. Why is it doing that? I put token here for requirement. It's still pulling from the scheme. Using the bearer scheme, but security definition is token and token. Header, authorization, scheme. You know what? I'm going to take a peek at the ASP.NET example here. See what happens here. So add JDB bearer. So it starts with token. So there's some options here. It looks like, This may be the reason why he implemented it like this, because he had to use token instead of bearer, which would be really annoying. Let's look at another one. There's another ASP.NET application in here. Hey! Let's see if I can butcher Laurent's name and say Monsieur Dugan. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Laurent is one of my coworkers from a long time back. In fact, that was oh well, I did it. I have no French training whatsoever, but I did it. Or maybe he's just being kind. But either way, welcome, Laurent. I have started at Couchbase. Laurent was on my DevRel team, and he has come back to Couchbase, working in the marketing team. We're still doing the same kind of stuff, though. We're still trying to help developers. We're still coding. So thank you for joining us, Laurent. What I want to look at here is this SRC, and I want to look at specifically the JWT configuration to see what I'm doing wrong. I'm trying to follow the spec. I got it working. I just want to make sure I'm following the spec. I'm not seeing anything like token or bearer strings in here. This time we have budget because we report to marketing. If my bot was working, this would be a great time for rimshot. Okay, let's see. Well, that's not helping. How about the microservices one? Let's see if there's anything in here. This is going to be a bunch of projects, I'm sure. Profiles, service, startup. See anything in here with JWT? Configurations. Maybe it's in the proxy. See authorization. I don't see anything with JWT in here. Middleware? Nope. Dependency? Nope. I don't think this even uses JWT. There is a closure testing project. Test the API. It is not forgiving. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, if I'm off, if it's working but it's using the wrong spec, then it's not working, right? So what I'm kind of stuck with here is, even though I have token as my security definition, and that's the spec, it's supposed to be, if I can find the spec, where did it go? Oh, right here. It's supposed to be authorization : token followed by the token. But when I run this, everything's working, right? I can get a token. And then authorize. But I go and execute this. You can see. Do I have zoom in on? Maybe you can't see because of this font. The authorization : bearer, not token. And if it is an unforgiving test project, that's going to fail. So I'm trying to figure out how to get this bearer changed to token. And I thought by just changing this token, that would do it. Doesn't seem to be working. Is there bearer anywhere else? Bearer. The only place is this scheme right here. So I guess I'll try this again. Yeah, so then I get this error, unsupported scheme token. So it's got to be bearer. Is there another, maybe setting? Let's see. Maybe I'll just ask ChatGPT. How do I get the JWT header in Swagger to be token instead of bearer? Token. Oh, it's not : is it? It's like authentication : right? Token space. Okay. See what ChatGPT has to say. Because what I've learned so far is that ChatGPT seems to be the most useful tool, and Google Bard not as helpful. Let's see what this has to say here. Description. What is this? Add token header filter. Oh gosh, I have to go through all that? Oh my goodness. Well, at least it gave me an answer. That's pretty cool. Let's see what happens. Let's put this down here for now. And add operation filter. That's under what? That's under add Swagger Gen. Yeah, right here. I'm not sure what this stuff is. Open API parameter. Token, your token here. This is just examples maybe? All right, let's see what happens. This still says bearer. Why does it still say bearer? Do a hard refresh here. Bearer. Oh. Okay, that's not really what I wanted. This is where okay, maybe this is what I wanted. I don't know. But I don't want this to appear here. I don't need it here. Okay. Okay, well, that's not working. No, I don't think that's what I want. I'm not really sure what this is doing. Seems like it's just adding another parameter to it. We could say, well, that didn't work. Suggest something else. Yes, it apologized this time. Yes. It's probably my fault, ChatGPT, but that's fine. You apologize to me. Hide document filter. Swagger UI should display the header as token. Okay. See, this is just putting in more parameters. Well, I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I do have it working. Okay, we'll go one more time here, just make sure this still works. It's not necessarily following the spec, but I just want to make sure it works. Authorize, yes. Close, execute. Okay. So, one thing I didn't do, probably should have done this. So over to my projects, is since this is actually in progress, let's go ahead and move this over here to in progress. So I'm going to go in here and add a comment. That's actually this one. So got it working, but it's using authentication bearer token instead of authentication token. Not sure how to change that yet. Just leave myself some notes. But there we go. Okay, so it's partially working. I think that's progress. I'm just wondering if there's something I'm missing here. Is there a much simpler way to do it? Okay, let's see. Add security definition. Well, that's... Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I'm doing here. Add security definition token and security scheme. Description. Scheme equals token. Yeah, let me just pin this. This is what it's kind of doing already. Name, description, in header, type equals API key. I don't know why I want to do that. Maybe. Let's try it. Why not? API key, and we'll call it token. And the bearer format is not on there. Uses a different type. What do you mean by a different type? Authorize. Okay, it says token right here. That's interesting. You're saying it uses a different type, not OpenAPI security scheme, OpenAPI security requirements. No, wait. Yeah, OpenAPI security scheme. It's the same type, right? You're saying different. Okay, this is a different type. Yeah, okay, we got that. maybe how it's getting around the exception with using bearer. Okay, let's see if it works. So this should still fail. It does. Get me a token. This one. Authorize. Okay. Still fails. So it's not putting in the word token right here. If I leave that on. Scheme wasn't in that header. Yeah. Authorization. You're saying it wasn't here? This is authorize. Okay. Yeah, it's not there. Still not there. So I think it has to be HTTP in the header, right? I'm on ad 3 of 7. Oh my gosh. Don't see, aren't you a let's see. So how do you get the ads? What's the way? You probably can't hear me right now. How do you get rid of ads? Do you have to subscribe to me? Do you have to subscribe to Twitch? Both? Like, how does that work? Laurent just had 2 ads. Seven ads seems like a bit much. When you executed that second API call with token applied, the code showed authorization. Yes, right. That's exactly what I noticed there, Calvin. Maybe you didn't see that because you're viewing an ad for gamer subs or something. I don't know. NordVPN. I don't know what they advertise on Twitch these days. Might be a good, I don't know how expensive they are, maybe a good place to advertise Couchbase if we can figure out how to target it appropriately. Diablo 4, okay. Yeah, if someone's playing, Diablo 4, not really necessarily going to be a lot of overlap with Couchbase. You're also in the middle of 7 ads. Seems a bit much. Yeah, it does seem like a bit much. Is this a setting that I can change? Like, I remember enabling banner ads. Golf lessons for this guy's daughter. Okay. That's sweet. All right. I don't know who that is. I don't know who you're even talking about because I'm not seeing the ads that you're seeing. All right. Calvin's back. Yes, I did see that the authorization : token string was there instead of authorization : token string. Yes, I did see that. So I switched it back to HTTP. That seems to be what changes that. Nope, support scheme token. All right, and so this has to be bearer again, I guess. But there's no like label or rename or anything like that. This should be a enumeration, I think. You can see your video, but you can't hear anything except the ads. Oh, interesting. I thought it was all full screen, like just full screen ad, video ad, sound, everything. But you can actually see my video. So is it like a banner ad that has video in it? It goes under the feed? I don't know. Curious. See how that works. I joined some streams a couple weeks ago just to kind of get back in swing of things. I didn't notice. I I don't think I got hit with those. Maybe because I was a subscriber or something? I don't know. Huh. Anywho. Full screen ad with you in the corner. Oh, okay. So it just sort of moves me over. Got it. Got it. So I was asking while you're watching the ads, Calvin, is how does one get rid of those ads? Do you have to subscribe to me? Do you have to subscribe to like Twitch Plus or something? Or is there a third way? Just for future reference. Okay. No idea, but I shall inquire. Yeah. We could ask ChatGPT. I was hoping you knew off the top of your head. Let's see. So this is just the name of the definition. What else is in here? It's like being a subscriber to the channel. Okay, so if you're a subscriber, you don't get the full screen ads and maybe not those banner ads either. Good to know. That may be why I didn't see them, because I think I was subscribed to the person I was watching. Although maybe I wasn't. I don't know. Bearer format. Oh, that's okay. See, I really think this should be an enumeration, not a string, because I could put, a typo in here, right? Brr. See? That seems like a poor choice. But anyway. A regex? Regex where? Regex, if you're watching and you're a newbie, is a regular expression. It's a bunch of gobbledygook that helps you match strings for replacement or whatever. Regex as the scheme. Okay. What would be... it would be weird. I don't know. Let's see. Write me a regex to replace the word bearer with the word token. There's no way I am writing my own regex from scratch. That's not going to work. It's got to be a string, so it has to be an expression. String.format. Now, because this is just a string, it ends up being a string. It's not a function or anything like that. So whatever I write here is going to end up being a string. And if it's not bearer or whatever other schemes are supported, I don't know what schemes are supported, it's going to give me that same error. Speaking of which, what are the schemes supported in OpenAPI Security Scheme? No, not type. HTTP bearer, that's interesting. Not the type property. The scheme property. Okay, interesting. Scheme property, like a basic or digest. Well, that's not right. So this is scheme property should have bear it indicate a token-based authentication scheme. But this says deprecated though. This is getting frustrating because this is not like valuable, interesting work. This is just like I'm shuffling a string around, trying to get it to fit the spec. But of course, once I solve this, I'll have it solved for all future times I want to use JWT. Well, I don't think I used anything in Google yet, so why don't we try that? JWT, ASP.NET, change bearer to token in header. Swagger. Or swashbuckle, I guess. How to customize bearer header keyword. Well, this looks like the exact problem that I'm having here on Stack Overflow. So I'm going to upvote that. Implementation. Yes, you do get a free subscription. Did it show a little graphic? Did you just subscribe? It should have showed a little graphic. Why isn't this stuff working? Here, I'll just do this. I subscribed to myself, but that's what it's supposed to do. Oh, there it goes. It just took a while. It was a little bit lagged. Did you see it that time? Eventual consistency. Oh, boy. Okay, so this is the Stack Overflow question with my exact problem. This is probably this person doing the exact same thing because they want to use token instead of bearer. So let's see what the answer is. The top answer. Implementation of the JWT bearer authentication handler lives inside of JWT bearer handler. It's read and split using the format bearer. Here's what that looks like. Wow, okay, interesting. As the code above shows, this is hard-coded to use bearer. However, a JWT bearer event includes an onMessageReceive property that allows you to hook into the process for retrieving it from the incoming request. If you provide an invitation for this event, you can use your own processing to extract it however you like. Oof. Okay. That seems like a pain. It's the most upvoted answer. Let's see what else is down here. This one looks a lot simpler, but it has no upvotes. Oh no, this looks like the same thing. Maybe a more concise way to do it. Let's copy this over. Let's see what I can get to work. So that was in add authentication. Add JWT bearer. Okay. Options. So options.events equals new bearer events. So it's really just this stuff right here. If it contains special API key, this is where I want to say token. Something like that. You want authorization there. Do I want authorization? I want authorization : token and then token string. Right? It's looking at the header, not the value. Oh. Header contains key. So what? I'm confused. Authorization in the header is authorization is the header where the value is token. Okay, right. If the request contains saying it contains authorization. All right, authorization. 72 and 74 should be authorization. But then where does the token get put in at? 75 should be token. But I don't understand, Calvin, because aren't I replacing bearer with token? Key value paid. Key value. Huh? Key value pair. Yes. Bearer token is a key value pair? No, it's a string. Headers is a key value pair. Okay, right. Okay. Okay, I'm with you. And then headers value is token. I am not following now. Bearer token gets the header element 0. Okay. Token is the scheme you need to search for on line 75. Okay. Then everything after that is your actual token value. Oh, Bearer token starts with. Okay. This is okay. Yeah, this is hard to read. Okay, so it's saying, does the bearer token start with token? If so, then give me everything after 7. Otherwise, give me the whole thing. Okay? So that's the actual token value. That's what this is. Yes. Okay? So this is the token value. 7 was for bearer. Okay, right. So change that 6 for token. Okay, now I'm lost because I want it to be token. It seems like this is cutting token out. And there's no token to cut out. It should be bearer that's cutting out. Am I wrong? Am I wrong about this? I spelled authorization wrong too. You need token to match the spec, yes. The override is letting you validate using token. You don't need the word token in the value after you parse it. Okay. So you're saying, but so this should work as is? Is that what you're saying? It seems like it's still going to put bearer in there. Okay, so this will fail. 401. Give me a new token. Authorize. Okay. And then execute this. See, it still says bearer in there. And it also says invalid token. Did I copy and paste wrong? We're not just saying invalid token. And it still says bearer. All right, let me go back over to Stack Overflow here. Where was it? Here it is. Why did I close it? Let me look at this one here. Okay, this is the less concise version, maybe easier for my brain to follow. So we're getting the authorization header. If there isn't one, nothing to process further. Okay, that makes sense. If it starts with token, so this is also saying token. Just like you were saying, Calvin. Here's a link to something. This is ASP.NET Core 2.2. This is way, way old, but whatever. One thing was that the old system, we're not using authorization header, and we're accepting with or without bearer first. Okay, so maybe this isn't. This seems to just basically say, ignore bearer if it's there. But it doesn't change it to actually say token. If I do that, it's going to be an error. Yeah, unsupported scheme. Oh, I'm just not getting it. Still says authorized there. And it still says bearer there. Oh boy. I don't think this is doing what I need it to do. It doesn't really seem like it's answering the question. Unless I'm not reading this question properly. I kind of skipped over it. Okay. All right, let's see what's going on here. To be token. Well, so this has nothing to do. Here's the thing. This has nothing to do with Swagger. I think Swagger is maybe what the problem is. So this might be right. This might be necessary, but this doesn't fix what Swagger is choking on. Do you know what I mean? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, we're in agreement. Okay, now it's making sense. If you use Postman, it'll probably work. Yes, you're probably right. Okay. Postman will let you set bearer, and that's anything you want, whereas Swagger won't. Okay. Why won't Swagger let me do that? So what you're saying is maybe I should just give up on Swagger at this point and switch to Postman. Now there is a Postman. What do you call it? Postman collection. Bearer is a standard, whereas token is not, and they must be validating against that. All right, so I don't know. I'll put this in the folder for now, right here. Okay. Close all this. Oh, no. I want to open a collection. How do I open a collection? Collections. Add. I don't want to create a collection. I have one already. Import. File. Import. Okay. And choose folder. Right here. And I don't want to. Well, what are we doing here? File. Upload files. What am I doing? Yes, here we go. Import that. Okay, so here's the conduit and auth. So if I, okay, where's this API URL? How do I define that? Variables? Okay, I'll log in. Okay. Variables not defined, active collection environment or globals. Active collection, so can I define that somewhere? Do I have to just put it here maybe? Look at test for the login. Look at test for the login? Right here. Okay, that's where it's probably grabbing the token, saying another variable. Well, it's trying to get the URL here is what I'm trying to resolve there. I'm thinking if I go to variables, what was it called? API URL. API URL. And it is, what we're looking at here. Right here. Or you can put it in variables for the collection or create a new environment, add it there. How do I create a new environment or, whoops. Request, add folder. Way over to the right, way over here. One of these things. Oh, no environments. There's environments. Hang on a second. I've got to go. I got to knock on the door. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Having some work done at the house. Very cool stuff happening. When I say very cool, I mean in the suburban dad sense of very cool. But anyway, where were we? I was trying to get this to work with Postman. Let's see. Okay, so it still doesn't like this. Or no, maybe it does like this. No. Unresolved variable. So that's not... Is that to save or something? Maybe I have to save. Okay, alright, so there we go. And no parameter. Oh yeah, I do need parameters, right? They are over in the spec. Something like this. Request body is a post. Yep. Body. Oh, there it is. Look at that. It's already there for me. So I'll just put in. It's not going to be checked by the database at all just yet. I'll just put in something and send. Something went wrong. Got a 404 not found. /user/login. Is that right? It was API. Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so this needs to be /API. Okay. Try this again. All right, so there is returning the token just like it was before. And I'm going to need to, because the one I created was not to spec. It's just my little throwaway endpoint. Just delete me. So it's API URL /delete me. Crud. How's API URL? No, that's not going to work anyway because I don't have API in front of it. Delete me. Okay. And headers. This needs to be authentication. Oh, wait, authorization. Token, and then not that, but this. Like so. It worked. So if I say something besides token, like, I don't know, balloons. Not working. Okay, so there we go. Hooray, it works. Okay. It's time to commit. Because I got at least something working. Okay, it is in real world ASP.NET Couchbase. Okay, well, should probably tag this with the number here, right? Number 1 issue. Number 1, authorization, JWT authorization working. And do I check in the Postman collection? Yeah, probably. Is there any git ignore in here? There's a git ignore, but it's not ignoring WS. I should ignore WS, right? Try that again. Yes, I use Tortoise Git. It's just the way I do things. I like it better than Git command line for most everyday normal Git stuff. Why isn't bin and obj? Also, those should be in the ignore list. I'm guessing this is a, okay. I'm going to copy one of my other git ignores over. It's not a very good git ignore. It's not made for .NET projects. Okay, that's more like it. So there we go. That's the initial commit. Initial commit. Authorization working. I'm checking in that delete me controller, just because if someone were to use this, they need to have something to test the authorization against. So I'm not going to check in something incomplete. I will remove this later. So, okay. And that returned, no, didn't return a user. So anyway, let's just check it in. First commit. And do a push out to GitHub. Let's go look out there. So this should have a commit associated with it now. I think. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, there it is. Now, in a team situation, this would be shouldn't be done via a direct push. It should be a pull request, but I think I'm going to forego that until I've got the implementation done. If other people want to contribute, you can submit pull requests. It's totally fine. But I'm going to keep doing a direct commit myself, just because it's it's just kind of extra overhead for me to manage all that for all this initial implementation work. So I want to see this tag here. Okay, so this is kind of expecting pull requests. That's why it's not showing, at least as far as I can tell, it's not showing that association that the issue has with all these, adding a commit, for instance. That's not showing up here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over to done, because we got authentication working. And there we go. Hooray. All right, so we've got the first card done. In true project manager fashion, you've got one card done. Well, time to give you 2 more. Where are my... Okay, so I've got registration and get current user. Let's do update user. We'll add that one there. Endpoint update user. And we're going to convert this to an issue. Take all this spec out of here. Put it in the description. Format it up a little nicer. And there we go. Okay, and next one, get profile. And I'll add another one for that. Endpoint, get profile. Convert to issue. Okay. So there we go. Now I've got 1 in the done column, and I got 4 more in the to-do column. And I think I'm going to come to a stopping point today. I'm not going to be able to get much farther in 20 minutes. Oh boy, using project to GitHub. Yeah, so first of all, welcome. Thanks for joining. Good to see you here again. Towards the end of my stream, but better late than never. Yeah, I'm using GitHub projects. I want to do something lightweight, just keep track of what needs to be done, what has been done, what's in progress, that sort of thing. This is the sort of thing I would use Agile Zen for back in the day, but they don't. I think they exist anymore. Just a real lightweight. Oh, well, there's still results for them. Okay, maybe they are still out there. I don't know. Anyway, I used to use Agile Zen all the time for this kind of stuff. No, it's no problem. Hey, yeah, Trello would be. Yeah, I used Trello before. We actually used Trello at Couchbase before you joined. I think Aaron, when Aaron's also a Couchbase employee, we used Trello. The DA team used Trello, I should say, and everyone else used Jira. Now, of course, everyone uses Jira. I assume you're using Jira these days. You're on the DA team, but yeah, we used to use Trello back in the day. I forgot about Trello actually, but I was doing everything on GitHub anyway, so I thought I may as well just throw this up there. just to track progress. Try to make this as realistic as possible. This is a real world project. So, I could just blast through all the specs and knock out a bunch of code, but that's not very realistic, right? I wouldn't want to do that at an actual, if I'm building software as a consultant or a product or whatever. I want to keep track of things, keep notes, put in some documentation, things like that. And that's actually something I might want to update the README. That might be something to actually add as a column here. This is going to be update docs. And can I move these? Yeah, I can. So let's have an update docs column. So once something is done, it needs to get docs updated as well. Let's make that yellow. No, I already have one. What do I not have? Blue? Meandrix, thank you for the follow. Glad you're here, Meandrix. And since you're following, you're going to get notified the next time I stream, which will be this Friday, I think. Friday morning, my time. Yes, 9 a.m. Eastern U.S. time. Friday morning is when I'll be back up here streaming, continuing this Conduit project. This will be going all the way to the end. One thing I don't have on here also is I need to do some sort of CI CD setup, and I'm not really sure what that's going to be. That might just be GitHub Actions, or maybe because I probably need GitHub Actions in the long run anyway, if this is going to live in the Couchbase examples organization. But something to at least run the tests, the unit tests, and integration tests, which I haven't created yet either. And maybe deploy to Azure as well. So I will need something for that, and probably sooner than later should set that up. So let's actually make that a little higher. That's I've never liked being the guy who sets up the CI/CD. Like, I used to be the Team City guy at a company I used to work at. I used to use GitHub Actions for everything else. Yeah, I used to be that guy, and I'm not good at it, but someone's got to do it, right? So be another painful stream watching me struggle through setting up CI and CD for GitHub Actions. I'm kind of interested in using test containers. Yeah, that'd be great, Aaron. I'd definitely appreciate your help on that. I'm thinking about using test containers to write some integration tests once I get to the database. But Aaron, I think I maybe worked with you on that before. Like, maybe I didn't create the GitHub action, but I certainly was updating that project, one of those ASP.NET projects. But anyway, I'm wondering if test containers will work with GitHub Actions. I've got some time, so I can research that. Can I use test containers.net within I don't know, in GitHub Actions, and tests being run by GitHub Actions? You can use Docker within a GitHub action. Yes, certainly. Test containers gives me a little bit more capabilities in terms of writing tests and making it a little easier to do that. So let's see. It says, yes, I can, but there's a bunch of caveats here. Okay. Well, this is, again, according to ChatGPT. Who knows if this is actually true? I'm sure I'm not the first person to think about this, so there must be some examples out there of using test containers.net in GitHub Actions. So that's something I'm considering. I'm not set in stone. Really, what I want to accomplish is I want to write integration tests against Couchbase, and probably the best way to do that is spinning up a Docker container somewhere, running the test, and then getting rid of that Docker container, that instance. It's just the how to do that. Test containers, I'm hoping, will help me do that a lot easier, a lot quicker than I would be doing it manually, which I have done before, right? But and I think that's what your GitHub Actions are doing, Aaron, is spinning up a Couchbase container, running tests, and then closing down the container. So something I got to do anyway, right? So we'll see if test containers can help with that, make it a little smoother, or not. Docker Compose, yeah, that's why we're using Docker Compose. Yes. So we'll see how that goes. But that's on my list as well. And, well, I think that's about it I want to cover today. So thank you all for watching. Make sure to follow so you get notified next time I go live. And if you want, I can give you a link to the repo if you want to check it out, play along. Obviously not much to see there right now, but you can check that out at your leisure. And maybe I will... and also I'm going to check into my bot because it was working fine yesterday. I started up the stream today and nothing's happening. My bot's not responding to bang help or anything like that. Just nothing doing. So I got to see what failed there. But anyway, that's it for today. Thank you all for watching. Apologize for the short break in between. Got to get some house stuff done. But thank you everybody for chatting. It's Aaron, Calvin was here. Laurence was in here. Chad, Taylor, and Code was in here. And I think we had somebody drop by earlier who had some great comments about Elixir. Was it Elixir? 031. Yeah, he was an Elixir developer. So he had some interesting ideas about... We were discussing folder structure and projects. So thank you very much for joining me, and I hope to all see you again on Friday. One thing I used to do, and I just now remember this, is I used to do raids of my team members to close out the stream. So let's see who's online. We got C# Fritz, who is he's like sort of the inaugural team member. So why don't we go and raid him and see how that goes. Hey, Surly Dev is showing up just in time to go and raid C# Fritz. But okay, we've got 4 people in the raid. And thank you much for joining. I'll see you over there and C# Fritz for a while. Then I got to get some lunch, and I got another. I got a webcast to do later today, so I'm going to lose my voice by the end of the day. So anyway, thanks very much, everybody. Have a good one.